The Fargone Podcast, presented by This Is Coffee. Premium instant coffee meant to be enjoyed outside. Get yours at thisiscoffee.ca. Good stuff, boys. Love to see it. Another episode of the Fargone Podcast, and we got a beautiful looking face on the screen here today, and that's Mr. Connor Gabbott. Connor, thanks for joining us, man.
I thought you were introducing Wardo to start there. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, well, we can introduce him too. But
the intro led me to believe that it was the mustachioed man on the left side of the screen.
Yeah, I tell you, wow, if you combine your hair and my mustache, I tell you, you'd have to save a little rest for the rest of us, right? You know what I mean? It'd be tough out there. It'd be tough.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I'm super excited to catch up and talk about all the things that we were passionate about.
Oh, I freaking love it, man. Matt, speaking of your beautiful face here too, dude, how's the last week been since we chatted? Last 2 weeks since we chatted?
Yeah, it's been good, man. As you know, some people know, I'm kind of in the throes of back in the real world of my like chiro physio clinical job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on something big there, starting my own thing, and working on purchasing a commercial property and stuff. So that's kind of
dude, that's huge, man.
Yeah, lots of stress because it's like very out of your own hands, you know, like if I don't have enough patients coming in the door, I need to find, you know, I all the things I can control are pretty good, but it just happens that like, you know, all the thing when it goes like, it's like the, you know, the commercial lender's like, yeah, this looks good, goes to the next person. The risk person's like, I don't like where you've put these apostrophes and dashes. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll be 20 grand, please.
Yeah. You're like, okay. It's just
and
like,
try again.
got this closing date looming and stuff. So I'm just a lot of like, I feel like I need to have more control over it. So I just kind of hover around and don't go hunting and don't do certain things. So I'm kind of like just like a bit of a, you know, nervous wreck, but coasting through. Actually, it's nice to hop on the pod and talk a little hunting and hopefully get out for a little bit of whitetail here coming up soon. If I don't make it out for the last weekend of mule deer this weekend, but otherwise, yeah, things are pretty good. Dude, I did almost text you, but I figured we'd save it for the pod. Gabbott, a couple weeks ago we were on and we were talking about just like optics and how we figured that, you know, when is the next company going to come out with like the image stabilization stuff? And we're like, I'm like, it's got to be soon. Let us down the road of talking patents and whatever with SIG. Lo and behold, Black Friday, Swaro opens up with their freaking spotter on the, I was like,
and dropped a bomb on everything else.
Man,
like nothing can compare now.
Dude, right? I'm like so curious. And I'm wondering if they're going to do it for their binos or maybe SIG has that patent on that. I don't know. Connor, do you know?
I'm not too in the loop on that kind of stuff, but I would imagine, I mean, it's got to be the same technology, right? As long as they can miniaturize it enough to get it in a pair of binos, I don't see why they, I can't imagine SIG has a patent on all stabilized binos.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Sorry, we were out on a hunt recently and someone brought out a pair of Nikon stabilized binos, believe it or not.
Oh, no kidding.
We were hunting off a boat and you could sit on the boat with, I think they were 20 power. And you could sit on the boat and the boat's rocking and you could hold it up and you'd be looking up the mountains and that thing was just rock solid. It was pretty incredible. I was blown away.
There's definitely been times like frig, obviously like Lauren and I go to the coast and hunt bears off the boat every year. And I mean, you're like ripping along and it's like pretty steady and you're like, oh, what's that black spot? And you don't really want to like throttle down and you're like, and you're just trying to like do your best at like stabilizing and you're just like, I can't see a freaking thing here, man. Like it's going to be neat for stuff like that.
Dude, it is a game. Like I've hunted a bunch off a boat with the SIG ones.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's insane. Like even down to just like, I'll just like play around with those things every time I go spearfishing or something. And just for fun, you're like reading like boat names and like choppy waves and being like, this is wild, man. So, but like now that it's paired and it has to come out with the binos with Swaro. But now that you have like that type of technology paired with like a top tier glass, like a Swaro, like I said, that's a drop a bomb on the freaking industry, dude. Like that's incredible. I cannot wait. And they have to be coming out with those binos. Like there's no way around it. And it was just a matter of time too, right? So yeah, when I saw those in mounts, and same thing, Matt, I'm like, I should text Matt, but then I'm like, we're probably going to chat about it on the podcast anyway, so I'll just save it.
Yeah, it was wild.
You and I, it's going to revolutionize our buck fever. You know, when you get in there tight, you and I are just like shaking away,
dude,
and
you're gonna like, you're gonna go to like just freehand the old 30-30 iron sights, and it's gonna just look like this. You're gonna be like, you're gonna lose the ability of how to like steady your hands, man.
Yeah,
so true. Well, it actually brings up, and maybe
yeah, exactly. The hat.
All the years of training myself to hold the brim of my hat, now
Totally.
it's useless.
Tuck the jaw, top of the hat, smush your face. You know, like it's good, man.
Well, it brings up a bigger question, man. And like I said, because it sounds like, and I don't know, Connor, if you've spent any time with the image stabilized stuff, but it's like every time I've used it, and I've used it like I haven't taken on a different set of binos this year, and every time I like look through them, like, dude, this just feels like game changer. Game changer. The only thing that comes in to my head, and honestly, though, it brings a bigger question. Maybe this is one that we chat about on a different podcast when because I really want to get to Connor's story here too. But I feel like, man, like is fair chase, all this other stuff, like is technology getting so advanced here where it like actually gives that advantage, right? I don't know, maybe because it's like, hey, it's not like you're hunting at night, it's not like an infrared thing or all this different stuff, right? But it is like it does feel like that much of a game changer where I genuinely think you are seeing a lot more animals because of how stable you're now able to handhold optics. So I don't know. It's like a bigger conversation that, hey, maybe I'm like just thinking too far down the line with that. But it is a bigger one, especially now that you have like that top tier glass like a Saguaro coming in. Like, is that something that we're gonna see like down the line, right? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, think of all the times that you're glassing like a hillside, and you know you got 12 powers or something like that, and that hillside's 600 yards away, and it's a burn, and you're looking for like a bedded mule deer, and like you're shaking. There's always a bit of movement, and you. I mean, how many flicks of an ear or like a swish of a tail have we missed while we're just like quickly glassing and like trying to hold it steady like that? And now all of a sudden, you're picking up any little movement, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the movement. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious. I don't know much about it. I could look it up after this, but yeah, I'd be curious if there's any regulations that are going to come out around it. I mean, obviously, like they had the no electronics on the bows in some states, right? So you couldn't have like the actual range finding sight. But yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah, it'd be funny to actually like put it up. Like, what is like, where has fair chase gotten to now? Like, if you're like, I think like the scopes are insane. Like, if you basically are pairing the ballistics of like through your binos to like, and then it tells you how far to dial and whatever. I mean, it's not that tough to build a shooting platform to shoot 750 yards these days. Like, just a little bit of practice and you're there. Like, between that, I think like the access to mapping software, like when FatMap was still around, like the image clarity on that, it's not even like that good for what we know is out there. Like, I think that's probably the bigger one. You're like, oh yeah, I just spent like, the last couple weeks like looking at this new zone that I've been in the whole time. Sure enough, if I just go up this other finger and pop over the backside, you're like, great. Versus that used to be on what, like Topo Map? Like, you used to actually have to have some skill in reading a map. Now you can just like whatever. You're just looking at pictures. It's a picture book, not words anymore. I don't know. Like, I think there's all that stuff with fair chase. It's pretty wild, man.
I think like to play devil's advocate, I do agree with you, but to counter the point, it would be like at the end of the day, you still got to get out there and kill them. And I think the things that really have an impact, I think on just like your efficacy when it comes to killing stuff like that would be things like the rifle scopes, and then just your ballistics and the rifles that we're shooting nowadays. I think that's the biggest one. I mean, I can spot, say you spot mule deer all day long with a stabilized 20 power, but still got to get in there and kill them. The only thing that's like that big difference is always comes down to rifles and obviously your ability, but rifle scopes, I think.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Hopefully it doesn't change the game too much.
Yeah,
I like it.
It'd be nice to see like in this. It's funny, like up north this year, at Iron North, like you hear these clients talking. They're from Utah, they're from Dakota, like South Dakota, they're from wherever they are, Arizona, and they're like, oh yeah, like the new change this year, and they removed the one from last year and all that stuff. And it's like like they kind of bitch and complain a little bit, but it's like it does like change quite often with like within the regs on stuff versus like I feel like ours stays like like decently stagnant. Like there's not a lot of like it does nothing changes with the times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it takes like a little bit longer. I could be wrong. I'm not like a massive reader of the regs, but it doesn't like
It's always playing catch up a little bit.
yeah, like it's never you're never
100%.
ahead of the curve. And you're never like you're certainly never taking anything away. Once you're like, oh, this actually doesn't really matter. Like just use your example of that range finding bow site, like the Garmin. Like
Yeah.
it's not really like it's kind of a challenging site to use. It's not really that great in BC, especially with weather. I've had problems with it at the dark, like when I was using it on the island. All sorts of different stuff. And I'm like, this isn't an advantage. Like, give me my spot hog, end of
Yeah.
story over that range finding site all day.
And you
I think
still
if you're
got to
in a
get in bow range to take down
yeah,
something too.
I think if I
Like
was in a
that's a big
stand,
factor.
like if you're in a stand, it'd be a little bit easier. But if you're like spotting, stalking, and something's on the move, like I don't know,
Yeah.
there's a few more things going on there. But I don't know. I feel like we'd never take it away here in BC a little bit more than like it seems like. And again, this is just an outsider's kind of a little bit. I'm not super learned on this thing, but it does seem a little bit more along the lines like there are certain states that are quicker to act for better for worse on populations on new tech coming into the game versus BC's always like seems like just so freaking reactionary like
Yeah.
late down the line.
Yeah. I would imagine a lot of it would just come down to pressure. I mean, it's so, or just how competitive it is down there. I mean, every time I go down to the States to hunt, blown away at how many people are out there. It's insane. And
Yeah.
if you come from places like BC where, we can drive up, a couple hours from Vancouver and you can get out and you can see not that many people. And then down there, it's the Orange Army in some states and the trailhead's packed. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, we're super lucky. And so I think when there's that many guys out there, there's that many more people that are looking for any small advantage, whether it's something like, a stabilized bino or the better mapping or, a range finding bow site. So I think they're a little bit quicker to react because they just have more people out there kind of like more up to date on what's happening in terms of tech and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, yeah, pressure. I mean, how many I don't know the numbers, but how many hunters are in the United States, especially in the popular spots. It seems like you can cross over and hunt any state almost whenever you want to. So, yeah, it's a great
100%.
point. You probably have more
Also, I think
people hunting a
too,
trailhead in frickin' Utah than you do in BC all year.
which is so true, man. I think another thing is too, right, where it's like we're talking about Swaro, who I wouldn't say is necessarily always the cheapest piece of equipment in the game here either, right? So it's not like every hunter is going to be worthwhile, willing to invest, call it $5,000 or whatever, $3,000 on a spotter that has this
Yeah.
technology or call it into their binos too, right? So it's not like every person is going to have these in their hand
Yeah.
where it's going to be making that huge of an impact. But it is interesting to think about, like, hey, the people that are able to afford it, that will have these things in their hands, like if that's going to give them an advantage over the other to the point where, like, hey, people are actually stepping in being like, okay, fair chase here. What are we thinking? Do we think this has that much big of an advantage or who knows, right?
Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
Anyways, sorry to take us down that tangent, but it was off the lid.
Yeah, exactly.
Current
No,
affairs in that
it's a
world.
huge thing.
That's exactly what we need. Current affair. Yes. Hot topic issues.
When's the grind my gears segment? I'm really good at that.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
right now, actually. Well, you got a couple that you're trying to go
Yeah.
here or what,
Yeah.
Connor?
That's too early. It's
Too
You're gonna
early.
this.
No beverages
Yeah.
yet.
I love it, boys. It's freaking awesome. So,
Nice.
well, hey, speaking of that, dude, we got freaking Connor on, which we're super stoked on. I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, master of none. But Connor, I look at you and I'm like a jack of all trades, master of all trades. Like, dude, you're a freaking, like, obviously incredible chef. You've never cooked for me, but I've seen videos that look incredible. We have been out for dinner too, which was a great meal that I feel like you only get when you're sitting there with a chef. You also are an incredible photographer. And dude, you're a hunter too, man. Like, is there anything you don't do? You're a sailor. Frick, dude. I'm just trying to think anything else to just like throw underneath here.
Ah,
Like what else is there?
that's it. You got it all. You covered
Got
it.
it all.
Yeah, that's everything. And I would definitely qualify myself as a jack of all trades, definitely a master of none. I like to do a lot of things. I get a little bit of like ADD, so I rarely like sit down and master something. So yeah, jack of all trades.
Yeah, I love it, man. Dude, well, I'd love to even hear a little bit about kind of your story, and for those that don't know you, right? Like, obviously, you started off as a chef. Kind of what got you into that originally, and then what started leading you down the hunting train?
Yeah, I mean, into the chef world. Yeah, honestly, the real story is I went for a family dinner at a local restaurant, and I was there with like 10 family members, and Grandpa's at the head of the table, and it's his birthday, and he leans over and he says, "There's a lot of pretty girls working here." And I said, "You know what, Grandpa, there is." And he said, "You should work here." And that's the honest truth. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I just came down the next day to the same restaurant. I applied. I didn't even know what to apply for. I just said
Yeah,
server because I didn't know what
yeah,
else to do. I thought you had to have some skills to cook. Yeah, and then they hired me. I was a busboy for a couple months, and I was introverted and didn't smile and didn't know my table numbers. And so they said, "Hey, we got a great job for you in the dish pit." And so they threw me in the
sick.
dish pit for a week, and then I was online, and yeah, I just started to kind of love it. I didn't really do any cooking before that at home,
Mm,
um, but yeah, I loved probably more than anything, like the camaraderie, like working with a team. You're kind of like going into battle every night. That was really, got me excited, and I really enjoyed the intensity. And then after working there for a little bit, I just started to get a love for food, as I think anybody would if you're, working in a kitchen. And
yeah,
then from there, yeah, it just kind of grew and moved on to a couple different restaurants. And then, which actually kind of leads into how I started to hunt, which was, I don't know, maybe 8 years later or something like that. I was working at a restaurant up in Kamloops, and I was living with a buddy of mine, and we're talking, and this is like 2006 or something like that. And it's kind of the whole like nose to tail cuisine trend.
mm,
So there's this trend of some high end restaurants, and they'd bring in a whole animal, like a lamb or a
cool.
pig or something like that, and you'd process and use every single bit of that animal. And so you'd often get these duos where you'd get like a lamb, there's a medium rare seared steak component, and then there's going to be some sort of braised component. And I thought that was really cool. And I was hanging out with my roommate one time, and he's like, we're talking, and guns come up. He's like, "Oh, I got some guns." I was like, "Yeah, guns, like that's sweet." I grew up in the city, didn't know anything about guns. He's like, "Well, let's
Yeah.
go shoot." So we go shoot. And I was like, "Well, that's freaking awesome. Like, I'm not a man unless I have a gun, clearly." So, uh, yeah, promptly went out and got my gun license, and then picked up a gun. We went and shot like 30 rounds, and I bruised the piss out of my shoulder.
Oh yeah. What was the first rifle you picked up, or the first gun?
Yeah, I had a Browning A-bolt, and it was in 7mm Winchester short mag. Didn't really know what I was picking up there. I heard 7mm. I'm like, yeah, it sounds right, kind of thing.
Sick.
And then yeah, bruised the snot out of my shoulder, and I was like, all right, well that's cool, but like I'm not really a shooter, not my thing.
Mhm.
What else can I do? He's like, well, you can go hunt. And I was like, "You mean like go hunt deer?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can go get like a whole deer for yourself." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Well, we got to do that." So next thing you know, he takes me out hunting, and he gets a little spiker muley buck up in Region 5, and brought it home, processed it. Like I really like the butchery aspect of it, and so yeah, I was able to like butcher and process basically, this deer that me and my buddy were going to split. And man, just the connection to the outdoors, and more so than anything, I think like the purpose that it gave me to
Mhm.
get out there was super addictive. And then from there, it quickly turned into much more. I mean, that was a road hunt, my first one, but after that, very quickly, it was like gave me reason and purpose to get out in the Alpine, and that's what I
Mhm.
truly love. Is like big views, big mountains, a bit more expedition style, and man, the rest is history, really.
I actually don't know this. I mean, you and I've chatted a ton, but I mean, like, what was your first like big expedition hunt?
Believe it or not, the first one was a stone sheep up in Region 6. So I was working at this restaurant, and there was a guy that owned the building. He was an older guy. He's probably like 62 or something like that at the time. And he's an architect, really cool guy. And he'd hunted sheep on the Fraser back in the 70s. Yeah, we just got along really well. And he kind of took me out a couple times in the summer to like show me what it was like to go hunt, and just kind of took me through the motions. And he's like, "Hey, we should put together a bit of a trip this fall." He's like, "I've always wanted to go for sheep. Let's do a fly-in trip." So my very first hunting trip with a tag in my pocket was a fly-in sheep trip, and it was excellent. Yeah, I read Tony Russ's Hunting Doll Sheep in Alaska book like
Yeah.
1,000 times throughout the summer. I think I bought a bunch of the same gear. I thought I had it all figured out gear wise, and yeah, I got up there. I took like all his lessons from like where to spot sheep, and if you're seeing a bunch of ewes, like here's where you're gonna look, kind of thing. And it worked out. I mean, the weather didn't cooperate the whole time, but yeah, I was out there by myself, and then this older guy and his brother came out and they kind of do their own thing for the day. I went off, and sure enough, on like day 2 or 3 or something like that, like boom, there's rams. Saw my first ever ram, and it was just like the most addictive thing ever. I stared at this thing for half hour or something like that, and it's like up on this little pinnacle, and I'm like, man, if I was a ram, like that's where I'd be, like right up at the top. Super gnarly little sharp thing, and it's just all rocky. And I stare through my $400 Bushnell straight spot and scope with like a $20 tripod. And I'm like looking through, I'm like, I don't know, man, is that one? It's like, yeah, I could kind of imagine like horns coming out. Yeah, that looks like a sheep, like looking straight at me. And then yeah, 30 minutes I'd go back and forth. I'd like look at that, doesn't move. I'd look somewhere else, I'd go back, and I keep doing that. And all of a sudden, one time I go back, and looking back now, I mean, hindsight's 2020. I swear this thing was a tank. I look back, and all of a sudden,
Record book.
he just turns his head like this, and this huge thing of horns just turns and does like a 90-degree turn. And I was just like, dude, I almost fell back from the slaughter. I was so excited. I didn't think I'd see a sheep, and then here was this one that I was like, dude, that thing. I still think it was a pretty good sheep. So yeah, super cool.
Nice, man. That's sweet. Yeah, I didn't actually know that. I wasn't sure where your first like true expedition was. Yeah.
And then I ran up like right below him up to 500 yards, and he just said, "Fuck that, I'm out of here."
Yeah, he's like, "Look at this idiot." See you
later.
And he probably didn't run. He probably just walked away, as they do. Dude, that's cool, man. Nice. That's super sweet. I didn't know that. What restaurant was that at the time? Where you're working with that guy?
Brownstone.
What, sorry?
Called Brownstone in Kamloops.
In Kamloops, yeah. Right on. Nice.
Yeah, super small little thing in an old bank building, and the architect, the guy that took me up there, he had a studio upstairs. So
nice.
He's in the restaurant.
Sweet, man. When did you start? Because you finished up your culinary career, Joey's Test Kitchen, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. When did you make the jump over to the big machine?
Like to Joey?
Yeah.
That would have been 14 years ago, I guess. 2011.
2011. Yeah. And then how long are you in like the Joey's Test Kitchen? That's a cool job, by the way. Like, I don't think a lot of people will understand quite what you gave up. They're like, oh yeah, like, Connor working in a kitchen in like a big cog machine, but like working in the test kitchen, you can, describe better than I can, but I know that world a little bit.
Yeah, explain it to the people that have no idea what you're chatting about.
Yeah, so I started 2011. I took a job at Joey, and I was familiar with kind of like their systems and how they operate. It's in terms of training and systems, it's quite well regarded, and I think like a very well oiled machine. And so when I started in restaurants, I started working at Earl's. So I kind of knew the system from working on the inside as a cook, and then they had a position in their test kitchen, and so. By the end of it there, we had our own dedicated test facilities and test kitchen in the bottom of the in the corporate office right downtown in the financial district. And my job was essentially like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I looked after one aspect of the restaurant group, which was called local public eatery. So definitely more casual, sort of like pub concept, sort of like Southern California, tacos, burgers, nachos, bit of ramen, stuff like that thrown in. And so my job was everything culinary related. So, if we're doing a new build, I would help design the kitchens. We would go do all the training. I create all the training material. And then I would also develop all the recipes themselves alongside like with a couple other chefs that work in the test kitchen. And then, probably the coolest part was some of our product development trips. So when you're working, with sorry, with a restaurant group like that, it's super important to be out there, like kind of looking for new trends, looking for new flavors. We're almost in a bit of an echo chamber a little bit sometimes there. And so, yeah, we would do like maybe 4 or 5 trips a year. You'd go to a town or sorry, a city somewhere in the States or sometimes in Canada. The three of us that were in the test kitchen team, we'd spend like usually 3 days was like the max we could do. But you go out, you got your phone, you're taking pictures of every single dish you order, you got your notepad, and we would go to lunch and you'd have like, 20 dishes and they all get put down in front of you. And you're tasting and you're trying to dissect maybe flavor profiles, like what's in there. Wow, this is like a really interesting combination of flavors, like making notes of all the cool things, taking pictures, and then you'd wrap that up and then you go to lunch number 2 and you do the same thing. And then you go and you like have a coffee somewhere and we'd like we'd pull out our menus from our respective, restaurants that we had, our concepts. And we would talk about kind of like opportunities. What are the strong things? What are the weak things on the menu? Food costs, all this kind of stuff, prep, labor. And then from there, we would go to dinner and usually have like 2 or 3 dinners as well. And yeah, it was such a cool experience. I mean, I got to eat so much great food. But I think like the part that I remember the most is the amount of nights that you get back. We were allowed to drink as well. So, and my chef liked the wine. And so we were always in it pretty good. And I remember more than anything would just be like lying in bed at the hotel, anywhere from like 12 o'clock till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And you're like lying there on the bed and you feel so sick. All I want to do is puke, and your stomach is just overflowing with food because it's great food. And like, it's hard to take one bite. And then, yeah, I would just feel sick, like sick to my stomach. We should have gotten hazard pay for what we were doing. And then you'd go to sleep. And at that point, this is my theory anyways, but when you wake up in the morning, I feel like you've stretched your stomach out. You wake up in the morning and you've already got 6 or 7 restaurants that you know you're going to go to. And it's like, wow, man, let's go get some breakfast somewhere. I'm starving. And so now you got to go and you're eating like some, average, mediocre breakfast spot before you're about to go out to like 6 or 7 other restaurants throughout the day. It was gross. It was really gross.
You're not, you're not like the first guy I've friggin' heard that from. Like, like my good buddy who owns Dovetail in Yaletown there. I used to go, like, he'd be like, hey man, like living in Kelowna, he'd be like, hey man, like I gotta go do like a kind of a product test at the other Cactus Club in town or something like that. He's like, you want to come with? So it's like not the worst amount of food waste you've ever seen in your life. And we show up, order, 8 starters and 8 entrees between us two. And I'd always have to try and be hush hush. We'd be in the weird corner of the dining room so the kitchen doesn't see that we're there, kind of thing. And I'm like, he does this all the time. I'm like, getting my money's worth, man. Food's expensive. And you do, I mean, like a fraction what you have done, but like, you have like, do you want a glass of wine? I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't want a beer. I don't want a glass of wine. I want water. And I just want to like go home and lay down. I just had 4 desserts. I haven't had one in 6 months. Like, fuck.
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah.
I just love that visual though of just like laying on the hotel bedroom and then waking up the next day and being like, well, breakfast sounds freaking good right about now. So let's start ripping her.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Just the same mistake.
That's cool, man. The ability you don't always get, like I think you and I have talked about this before. You don't always get in the big cog machine of the Earl, Joey, Keg, Cactus Club, whatever you want to put in. I mean, honestly, they do a phenomenal job of casual fine dining, that area of food. But you don't sometimes as a chef get to develop a lot of flavors. You get to develop a lot of systems. But it's pretty cool to be on that side of things, especially the way that you were now. And like, some of the cool stuff you get to do cooking wild game and you actually got to develop that palate and develop those flavors for yourself and then carry that into like current world of cooking. I'd say would you agree that's like, or definitely disagree, but would you say that's like a little bit almost rare in like the world of those big kitchen systems for sure?
Yeah. In the big kitchen systems, but I even think in the day to day of, just a standalone restaurant, it's still, I think, unique. So like one of the things that I really valued is like before I worked for Joey in the test kitchen, I worked at a bunch of independent restaurants. I tried to work at kind of like the best ones in town that I could get into. And it was great, but you're there for 12 hours a day and you're kind of like head down. It's like a grind. I'm not a quick guy either when I prep. And so, it's just a grind constantly to get ready for service. And, maybe you're cooking staff meal for the team as well that night. And so you don't have a lot of room to just kind of slow down and breathe and like actually dissect some of the things that you're doing or the techniques or the the flavor profiles, all this kind of stuff, and especially like the food science. And so that's where I think the Joey the time that I spent at Joey, it's there's no service to prep for whatsoever, and so you're there just hanging out, and so you have just this immense amount of time to dissect and look at like food science and like the science behind like how we interact with food when we eat it, and like palate fatigue and all this kind of stuff. And so that was probably one of the really cool things that I think not a lot of people get to do. Like examples, we wanted to revamp our burger years ago at local. And so, I think it was about a month and a half straight. All I did was cook burgers 5 days a week, and we're looking at everything from like, do we want to bake our own buns or here's like 50 different samples of buns. We're looking at like different burger mixes. What's the perfect fat ratio to be found on a burger? What's the perfect grind? What's like the perfect mix of cuts, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you even get as nuanced as things like, where does the pickle go and what purpose does it actually serve in a burger? What temperature should a tomato be? I think my favorite example, and if we're going too deep on the food, just let me know.
No, I love it. Dude, this is the stuff that I freaking dream about. So go deeper. Keep her coming.
So
talk to me about some tomato temperatures. Let's go.
Room temp has to be room temp.
Yeah.
Otherwise you lose all the flavor profile of your tomato.
Really? Yeah.
And then also eating this like hot thing, and then you've got this like ice cold, gelatinous, super, water rich thing in the middle. So
exactly.
But I think like the coolest thing would probably be something that we did it at local. So when I started in restaurants working at Earl's, you would have something called coast to coast. So you had literally a spatula, and you'd have a bun, like a bun heel or a bun top, and you would have whatever sauces go on there, usually some type of mayo, some type of mustard, and you'd take that spatula, you dip it in, you'd hit that bun heel, and then you would use the spatula to go coast to coast. So that mayonnaise goes all the way right out to the edges. And what happens is you've got this hot toasted bun, and then it sits there on the plate for a minute or 2 minutes. That mayonnaise kind of like soaks in a little bit. And then also what you've done is you've created it so that every single bite when it comes to your mayonnaise and your bun is going to be the same. And so we had this thing called the smooge, and I don't know where the name come from, can't remember, but we would have spoons. And so you take a spoon of mayonnaise and you put the dollop on there, the portion, and you take the back of the spoon and you basically would go like into the middle, and you go out one side, and then you turn around, you come back the other side, and it would create sort of like a channel. And then it would push most of the mayonnaise out to kind of the two sides. You got to kind of streak down the middle. And then you do the same thing with the mustard, and you go opposite. So you're creating this cross basically. Yeah. And then what you get is you put that patty down on top, and now on the ends where there's like all this mayonnaise kind of and all this mustard, you put that on there, and now it's like oozing out the sides a little bit, and it kind of looks like a McDonald's commercial. And then on top of that, now when I go to bite, it's like the first bite, I'm like, oh man, that's like some intense mustard, great. And then the next bite, it's like, oh wow, there's all this mayonnaise, there's this like richness. And you go back and you get another bite that's maybe got neither, and you taste more of the burger, more of the cheese, whatever it is. So that kind of stuff was super fascinating to like have the amount of time and space to like dig into that and just like experiment and play around.
Yeah. Like legitimately like the food science. It's super fun. Yeah. Like I love like, one of the things I used for cooking, especially when I started out cooking a lot more, was America's Test Kitchen. And I mean, like you can lose yourself down like their rabbit hole of like, all the things you talked about, right? Like temperature or whatever. You're like, oh my God. Yeah. Just looking how to like reheat noodles the best. But you know what? I do appreciate where we're going with all of it. But yeah, it's cool, man. And I think why I love this topic the most, one, I love to cook, as you know, but like the thing that really makes it stand out is like some of these things, man, like, you kill a stone sheep, like how many are you really going to kill in your lifetime? Or, it's a different question maybe for some people, but like, you're maybe if you're pretty committed and you just want to keep killing like better ones, like 2 to 4, somewhere in there, like maybe just one, like, who knows, right? Yeah. And like, it's going to be hard for me to top mine. So like, I'm at 1, and that might be it for the rest of my days. Like, I'll be damned if I don't want to like fuck up those back straps, man. Like, that's high pressure cooking. You're never getting it again. And you know, even with the cost of a beefsteak these days, like you go and buy 3 New York bone in, you're like, well, that was $125. You know, you're like, it's pretty wild, right? So like, I feel like it leads into the hunting space such a large amount because it just gives you such ultimate respect, and you get to create like really great dishes, and you know, especially when you're on trips and bringing little packs of sauce and so much inside. It's one of the things I always love about you, man. You always end up like, you know, either crafting a cool cocktail or crafting like just some awesome little meal out of nothing. So it's always fun, and you always keep me like on my toes, at least. I think, what would Connor do, and stuff like that. And Lauren also pushes my buttons pretty hard. He's like, oh man, the way that Connor like does these, like, you know, it's just like a little like a yakisoba style, like Ichiban noodle. I'm like, shut the fuck up. They just all are the same. He's like, nah. I'm telling you, Connor does it better than you. I'm like, damn it.
I love it.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about like not fucking up a stone sheep backstrap or something like that. It is a great point. Yeah.
Connor, do you find yourself like experimenting? Like, obviously when you were at Joey's there, like that was your job, right? Like your job was to figure out like how to get that mayo mustard portion just right. Do you find yourself doing that like still in like your daily life? Like being like, hey, I'm buying like, or whatever, like getting like 10 different steaks. Or even, hey, if you're getting a deer or whatever too, and being like, hey, like I'm cooking in all these different ways to find like the best ratios to kind of make the best dish kind of out there. Do you do a lot of that experimentation still, or
not so much anymore? I think like, you know, I still cook obviously all the time for myself. Yeah, there's no, well, I guess I kind of know what I like. And so it's more, and I don't, you know, I'm not writing down a lot of these recipes anymore. They're all just kind of in my head. And so it's more about like, I see something that's interesting to me that I want to like recreate. So nowadays it's more just like inspiration that I would get. But other than that, like, I mean, like any of us, you know, I got a repertoire of things that I love to cook that I think like shine in certain applications. And that's kind of like my bread and butter. And then, you know, throughout the year, I'll throw in a couple oddball ones, or like maybe someone requests something or someone sends me something online, and yeah, it looks interesting enough to try. So
you've been freaking hunting a little upland game bird lately. I know at our mutual friend Ben's place. Well, throw out how you've done with a couple of chucker recipes. I'm curious, and that could be kind of expanded out, I'm sure. But
okay, so I'm biased, and you can actually find this recipe online. I think I did it for Filson a number of years ago, but I love any upland game. I turned it into salt and boca.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with what it is basically usually it'd be made with veal traditionally, and it's pounded out into a little cutlet. And then it's got some sage leaves, prosciutto on top, and you're basically crisping the prosciutto, and then you're creating a bit of a butter pan sauce in that same pan. You got shallots and white wine and a bunch of lemon and butter and stuff like that. And so I take that same recipe and I essentially use it with pheasant, with grouse, with anything. But I will say the last couple of grouse, I got into blue grouse hunting this year a little bit too. And man, those are freaking awesome tasting birds. Like so fucking good. So those ones, like I stopped pounding them out, and I'll do whatever else I want to do with it. It'll be a whole breast. I'll sear, you know, and I'll create a sauce either in the pan or something different. But yeah, I would say salt and mocha would be like number one. And then if you got something cool, you know, like a blue grouse, I would just try and keep it more intact and like enjoy one, the size, and like two, just the flavor profile and like the moisture.
Yeah.
You know,
nice, man. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Sweet.
And even if you want a challenge, you can go find some chucker to turn into salt and boca. That's a hard pursuit right there.
Hard pursuit. We got a spot though. We got a spot.
Red-legged devil birds, man. Holy.
I think if I ever was like in real risk of shooting a friend, it'd be chucker. Like, it's like just the speed in which they come out. You'd have to keep your, like, I just want to, you know, have good lines. Good lines.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. The speed, you're just like, oh, yeah, oh, that's getting a little close. Whoops.
That's like, this is a solo activity for me, actually.
Yeah. At least I'm aware of my own shortcomings here, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at least you're like usually looking downhill at them, and you're usually on the same level as whoever you're hunting. I hear you. Yeah, they're freaking fast little birds, man.
Fast.
Yeah. I got one in the freezer right now, and I'm waiting to mount it here. I just got to find someone who can do it. Cool.
Oh,
Heck
nice.
yeah. Dude, you'll have to send some pictures when that thing's done up
The
here.
old
I
That's a
will. Yeah. Yeah. I'm,
yeah,
I'm really into the bird taxidermy. I have none of it, but
yeah,
yeah, I'm into it. So
nice.
dude. So at some point here, and kind of going back to kind of like your origins and stuff, because at some point you picked up a camera too, right? So obviously you went on the stone sheep hunt. Um, I'm assuming got taken over by everything that comes in regards to hunting. Obviously having this crazy experience and seeing this, I'm gonna call it a record book ram for sure.
very safe.
Unconfirmed, but it was probably a record booker. So we'll talk about that. And at what point did you kind of pick up a camera? Was that in the middle of all the food stuff too and the restaurant stuff? Or was it just like, hey, now that I'm like working at a restaurant, maybe hunting on the weekends, and now just wanting to document kind of like my hunts, where did the camera come into place?
Yeah, I can't remember the year that it started. I have to go back and look, but it was, right around the time that I kind of discovered, and I don't know if it had just come out or not, but Sika made a film called Searching for West, and it was by CCAT Creative back in the day, and they were just, I mean, they were the bee's knees when it came to kind of creative agencies within the hunting
Sick.
space, and
Yeah.
made this at the time, and still is. I mean, I've seen it probably once a year for the last couple of years, but this
Sick.
great film, and
Yeah.
it's such a huge impact on me. And so at the time, I was working in the test kitchen in the corporate office downtown. I was living downtown Vancouver as well,
Mhm.
and basically every weekend I was going to do something. I was hunting birds. I was going on a backpack hunt somewhere. I would take time off and I'd go, for a 10-day mountain goat hunt, something like that. And I would come back and I'd go into the office on a Monday morning and people are like, "Oh, like, how's your weekend?" You're kind of water cooler chat, right? You're getting an
Yeah.
espresso or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, good." And, a bit hesitant, but everybody's super nice. I'm like, finally you'd open up and I'd be like, "Oh, I was out hunting." And they're like, "Oh, well, what do you mean hunting? Like, what are you doing? What does that mean?" And I think everybody or a lot of people who aren't familiar with it in the city think that it's, sort of like that South Park episode where they
Mhm.
go hunting and they're like, you can shoot anything that moves as long as it's trying to attack you or whatever it is. And they're just blasting away. And so, yeah, I think more than anything, there was just a lot of like curiosity from coworkers who had no exposure to hunting whatsoever.
Yeah.
And at the same time as this film coming out, it was kind of inspiring. And I just thought, is there a better way? I'm not great with words, but maybe there's a better way that I can communicate kind of like what this passion or this like pursuit means to me,
Mm.
because it was such a big part of my life, but I wasn't able to articulate or share it. So
Yeah.
yeah, through that film, I was sort of inspired to pick up a camera. I took a lot of really bad pictures. I made a couple really, really bad films that I still have. And yeah, it was just kind of a way for me to like share with like friends and family. And, I didn't grow up in a hunting family. So even my family was did not understand what it was that I was doing or what it was that like drives me to go do a backpack hunt for a week. So yeah, and then just kind of built from there and made a couple of connections with some guys in
Mm.
Vancouver, and they were in the hunting media space, like the Journal of Mountain Hunting and stuff like that, and Adam Yonke and Nolan Osborne,
Sick.
and just from there it kind of built, and we ended up making a couple films while I was still doing the chef gig with the Journal of Mountain Hunting. We did what did we do? We did Tajikistan, East of the Sun was one, and then the other one was Towing the Line, which is a winter goat hunt film in
Sick.
northern
Yeah.
BC. And yeah, that's kind of where I got started, and then met a couple people. And um, 35, I'd been cooking for 20 years, and I really didn't have a lot of business outside of the cooking space, or sorry, in the photography space.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just felt like it was time to move on. I cooked for 20 years. I loved it. I really felt like I had the best job in the cooking space, but
Agreed.
something motivated me to decide to quit. So I quit that summer, and I had one job booked for the fall, and it was RMGA. It was like a Billy Goat Society film back in the day, and um,
Sick.
yeah, terrible film. Don't go look it up. Doesn't hold up anymore. Yeah, I think I was paid like $2,500, and I was like, you know what, this is enough. I'm going to quit my job. Great job. I'm
Yeah.
going to leave it behind. And so I quit my job, and yeah, I don't really believe in karma or much of that kind of stuff. And I didn't put it out there on social media that I'd quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like as soon as I quit, a couple people messaged me. They're like, "Hey, like, are you available to maybe document this?" And
Sick.
and just kind of reached out, and yeah, sure enough, like I don't know, I've been busy ever since. So
It's awesome, man.
yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's incredible, man. That's a really cool story.
Dude,
And I,
No,
I I think it's interesting too, and I would even be interested, like, kind of how. So you had this. Obviously, you're making some films, obviously taking incredible photos, doing everything along that line. Quit your job, and did all of that. What was it like? Like, yeah, you're getting a couple jobs through the door, but like, was there like this behind like stress about being like, okay, how are we going to make this? And was there like a roadmap at all, or was it with just more, hey, I'm flying by the seat of my freaking pants here. We're seeing what comes through, and hey, you know what? There's always Walmart at the end of the day if I absolutely have to, you know. So
well, that'd be a bit of a drive. There's not a Walmart close to downtown Vancouver.
yeah, there you
Um,
go.
to be honest, yeah, there wasn't really a roadmap. I've never really been too focused on that kind of stuff, and I just kind of let it come naturally. Yeah, I think I just had like, I had people like Adam Yonke were like huge because he was a true believer in like what I was doing at the time, and he was very, um, you know, offered a lot of support in terms of like how to keep going at it. And so people like that I think are like very crucial in those moments when you're trying to make a bit of a life shift. And then other people like Ben Storak, my buddy the outfitter there, he found out that I'd quit, and he called up one of his clients, his sheep clients that year, and he said, hey, do you want someone to come and film it? And they said yes. And that turned into a lot of recurring work with the family for a bit. And so yeah, I just kind of winged it. I didn't really have another plan. I just figured I could kind of coast for like 6 months or a year and see what happened. And yeah, luckily for me, it worked.
man, the stones it takes of all the things that I talk about you behind your back, the one that I probably say the most is like the stones to quit that test kitchen job and like go into like art house work in the outdoors field, which is like dude, it's absurd, man. Like
Oh yeah,
it's one of the things I will
100%
always.
happy with my decisions.
It's insane, dude. Yeah, yeah. It's like a job that, most people who work in kitchens can like kind of dream about working in a test kitchen with like pure like job security in a kitchen space is pretty rare. Like unless you just like love the dish pit or working on apps. But like apart from that, like there's always job security there. But when you get at the higher end of things, there's no job security, like you're just tethered to how well the restaurant does. So I mean, yeah, I always thought that was one of the coolest things, man. I was like, that guy's in a different class, in a different class of just ballsy, man.
No, sheer stupidity. For anybody listening that's thinking about leaving their good, cushy corporate job to go become a hunting photographer, yeah, it takes a lot of low intellect to pull that.
I don't know if this is a thread that we want to pull on at all, but like when I started, like, I don't know, my journey into this space was also like a little bit wild and like relatively recent. Like didn't grow up in a hunting family. Like my first hunt was like 17 or 18, I think I went, and then I was like 12 days for elk in the West Kootenays or something like that. And you get to kind of like, and of course it was with Adam and Journal of Mountain Hunting, BTK, and then you get to see like the back end of like the kind of marketing budget side and whatever, and no numbers needed and all that stuff. But I remember at that point, like it was still like you're getting paid like real marketing money to do like have like a piece in a podcast and whatever. And then in that time frame since then, man, like the best still do the best work. Like there's like, you, Foss, like guys like that, like you guys are always in the space. You guys always have clients. You're always, it's awesome. But man, it's a little bit different now. It seems like that marketing budget kind of drifted and is more like, wow, we can just get like these like influencers and people with enough clicks, and you can just give them free shit. And we don't even have to they don't even have to be any good at their job. But like, you feel like did that change? At what point did that feel like, was there ever like a not a panic scenario where you're like, oh, the business is changing, like marketing dollars are changing, people are giving stuff away for free more, not to just but like seemingly to almost anybody, including someone like myself who's a nobody. So like, I just feel like, was there like a point there where you're like, well, what the hell's going on around here, or no?
Not really, because I was there. Like
Yeah.
I would, I'd film a 10-day hunt for a free hat back in the day, and a glass of chocolate milk or something. But yeah, I get it, and I think that's how a lot of us start, right? I mean, you got to get your foot in the door there, and sometimes you gotta kind of give it away, or at least prove yourself a bit. And So yeah, I get it. I think I was there, and I would like, yeah, I commiserate with anybody who's in that same spot, who's like just trying to get started. And then once I started doing it full time and I could make a living doing it, I think your perspective changes. You realize how much that diminishes your own industry that you're stepping into.
Hmm.
I'm definitely not going to sit here and preach to anybody who's wanting to get started to not take a free hat and a glass of chocolate milk to go shoot something. If
Sure.
you're
Yeah.
passionate about it, go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there once. I totally get it, and you got to start somewhere. So yeah, I doesn't bother me if there's some young, kid who this is all he wants to do, and he's stealing work from me for a hat. Keep at it, bud.
Yeah. 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 Nice.
If it gets
Keep
going.
at it. You won't touch me. No,
Yeah.
Oh no, not like that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You gotta
I
chase your
totally-
passions, man. You gotta chase your
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well,
Yeah.
it is along that vein too, Connor. Like I have noticed, like obviously, especially the last little bit, man. Like Sika just came out with a film where you're actually in front of the camera a lot of it, right? And I'm assuming you're still like taking photos along the way, doing all of that. There's a couple shots too with obviously your camera strapped up and you're ready to obviously shoot for the day too. But how has that kind of come into play too for yourself? Of being like, hey, like I have seen like in front of the camera a little bit more lately. And dude, a guy like yourself, like I said, you're so freaking multifaceted. It's freaking insane. And it's like you have so much value that you can add beyond just taking these epic photos, right? So how has that kind of even come into your play with working with these different companies, obviously on the media side, but also being able to offer like, hey, like, dude, I'll cook a recipe. I'll talk about this at the same time. Maybe this will be a side campaign, whether it be like anything from like an iPhone video to whatever, and kind of offering those additional deliverables behind just only just your hero images that they're probably getting you out there for in the first place for, right? So
Right. Yeah. I know you're bang on. Honestly, I think I'm really good at pulling the wool over marketing people's eyes and convincing them to have something to offer in front of the camera. No, I I think I think it just comes down to like, as I started to create a very, very, very small name for myself with the camera, I was working with people who are working with bigger brands. And, through those connections, I think there was a realization of mainly, I think the cooking thing was like super critical for me. I think I lucked out with the timing. When we talk about telling a story, especially in the hunting space, like where it started, before I got into hunting, when I look back at things that were made in the 90s and the 80s and stuff like that, it's so drastically different. And it was focused on just a very, very small piece of what it was to hunt. And so now with the way that we're telling stories, and this kind of started when I feel like I got into the industry, we're really trying to tell like every single dot along
yeah.
along that storyline. And so that includes the cooking part, which is pretty critical. And I think also, when it comes to especially cooking in the field, a lot of guys can just relate to what it's like to get a sheep or to get an elk or something and bring it back and cook it in the field. And so yeah, honestly, I think I chalk it up to just kind of luck. Like I just happen to be a cook, and I happen to fall into the industry at the right time. And then through connections with other guys, yeah, some brands wanted to do some stuff around food, and yeah. On the hunt you're talking about, that was again just sheer luck because we were kind of like, a man down essentially. We could have used one more guy, and then I wouldn't have done a film. But we just, we had two rafts and two guys, and so yeah, we just naturally kind of all ended up in front of the camera a little bit.
I love it. Dude,
Yeah.
that hunt looked epic too. And then one question that kept coming through was how freaking heavy were those rafts that you guys had? Like every scene, I'm like, dude, he's got a cutting board to like a turtle box speaker to like probably so many freaking things of whiskey to and then he's like pulling out like all of this like different ingredients from potatoes to like all of this crap. And I'm like, how heavy are these freaking rafts, dude? And then also how like gut hurt were you on that second portage?
Man, yeah, that was devastating. I mean, you can kind of see it on my face in one of the clips there, but yeah, that was like the biggest punch to the gut ever. To answer your question about the weight, yeah, one thing I've never been shy about is like going and doing something without like taking a course first. And like I actually, it's worked out well for me. I haven't been hurt. None of my buddies have been hurt, and I genuinely think that it's led to a lot of like really cool experiences for us.
Cool.
And it's character building to go out and learn how to do a skill, or to be 100% self-sufficient on a trip like that. So it's not the safe way to do it, but I would definitely say that, like, if you're confident and you have a basic, baseline set of skills that are applicable to the scenario, just go do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you come away with like such richer experiences than if I was to go and take a course and do whitewater rafting ahead of time with a group and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I preface the story about the weight with that because, like, we didn't know what to expect. We had no idea, well, we had a rough idea how long it was going to take, but we hadn't seen the river before. We only knew one group that had done it before, and so we knew it was possible, but we had no idea what else to expect. And so yeah, we overpacked for sure. We ended up like throwing out a head of red cabbage, I think, on like day 6 that we realized we were never
That's a
going to
heavy vegetable, man. That's a heavy vegetable. Dense.
Yeah, we weren't smart on the food side of things, but also, it's a late season hunt, and we wanted to be comfortable. And
you want to be cozy.
like a morale booster, right? Especially on those long nights when you get like late season. What I will say is that I think we did a really good job on packing the liquor. We were super smart about it. We wanted Lamb's 151, which, if you've ever tried it, is like fucking drinking diesel. It is insanely harsh. So yeah, I can't drink Lamb's 151 anymore, but we figured that way you'd pack half the amount of bottles as if you just packed like regular spiced rum or something, right? So that
I like that logic. I like that logic a lot.
That's a hot tip for everybody.
Wow. Yeah. You could probably just pack a little gasoline too and just have even less. It's also fire starter.
Well, the gas you can huff too, right?
That's what I mean. You don't even have to drink it.
Yeah.
One for me, one for the fire. You're good.
Thing's freaking ripping, dude. She's giving her
151.
Yeah. It was a bad decision.
Savage.
Yeah. That was a pretty epic trip. To date, it's probably the best trip I've ever been on. For a number of reasons, but one of the big ones would just be the fact that, like, we didn't know what to expect, and we weren't super prepared, and that made it way more interesting.
You and I were talking about this up at Iron North, but I've always have questions because I've only ever done some pack raft stuff. I've never been on like a floating raft, like out of water floating raft kind of thing. You say that's the way to, would you do that? Like, obviously sometimes the conditions, if you're going to like actually have to hike a bunch, it's not really ideal. Like portaging is one thing, but if you're like, oh no, there's like a 12K stint in the middle, then you gotta, maybe you gotta freaking, roll up your pack raft or something like that. Yeah. You say that's still like, looking back, like I know we chatted about it a little bit, but like for everybody else, like you say it's still like a pretty enjoyable way to go. Hey,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. And what'd you use? You used
it's called a Pristine Venture. Or
right.
Pristine Ventures, I guess. It's a guy out of Alaska who designs them. And I'd have to look it up. I can't remember the exact model number, but it was their model name. It was the biggest one they made. And it comes with a rowing setup, which actually wasn't ideal for the river that we were on.
Yeah.
We just paddled, but I really, really liked it. I think like, I think we all have our own like journey that we're on when we go when we go hunting. And for me, like, I did the backpack thing bare minimum for quite a while, right? And super bare bones trips, and I love it, and I love like the physical aspect of it. And then now I've really started to appreciate like the ability to slow down on a hunt, and that's what the raft does for you big time. Is it forces you to slow down. And then, man, I enjoy like cooking good food. I enjoy having a hot tent. I enjoy, sleeping on the cot instead of like on the ground, especially when it's snowing. And so, all these things have just kind of led me, for me, it's a good fit right now in my like hunting journey to do a trip where you got a bit more gear. It's definitely a bit more of an expedition, which I like.
Yeah.
Like part of what I like, Nolan used to bug me about it. He used to call me like, the soccer mom or something, or like the soccer planner or something like that. Cause like, man, I love researching gear, and I love compiling gear, and I love buying gear. I mean, that's half the reason I'm a hunter, is because I'm a gear whore. And so it's an excuse to buy gear. And I absolutely love that stuff. And I love like e-scouting these like remote areas. And for me, it's kind of like, it's part of the buildup and the anticipation that like makes it that much sweeter when you're out there. And man, I just love the planning and the strategizing. So I think that's one more aspect that you know I one more like deeper level that I can do when we're talking all the gear required to do a trip like that versus
Yeah.
backpack.
Yeah, backpacking, the gear is very straightforward. Like,
It really is.
like
Yeah.
you can bicker about it and be like, no, I don't like merino, I like poly, like whatever. Like you both are fine. Who cares, you know? Like, but at the end of the day, backpacking, you're so limited by what you can take that it's like, and everything kind of works. Like it's more your toughness than anything else. So like for the most part, and then as long as like all things relatively equal, it's just like how well you can go. So I mean, apart from that, like yeah, I think the biggest thing I think about like some of the like when I watched that your that film for the first time, like I thought, oh man, like that's probably the most interesting aspect to me is like
Yeah.
not just trying to do a backpack hunt also with an alpaca raft. That's like bare minimum. You're still freeze drying, like everything's bare minimum plus the alpaca raft kind of thing, which I think would be sweet. Like I've never done like a proper 14-day in that. And I think it'd be cool, but yeah, to like not have a self bailing floor for for a trip would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We're
I
out
mean,
on the self-bailing floors, dude.
yeah,
yeah, I like all that stuff, but I think they're all just like a different
totally.
to your quiver, right? And so
Yeah,
like some hunts obviously need a pack raft, and some hunts I think are more suited to this. And
totally.
yeah, I would highly suggest it if you're considering. I got a couple. I'm actually renting them out.
This guy,
Don't
he's
tempt us
just
with a good time here.
this guy, he's always got an angle, always a business.
And I'll work for a free hat too, actually. So there you go.
Hey, we got a couple of those.
Nice, man. That's super.
Oh, I
That's
love
super
it.
cool, buddy.
What I think's super cool about that film that I really felt, and even chatting with you, like Connor, and every time we've talked about it, I feel like it's so much about the story as opposed to just like the kill or just the animal or anything like that, right? And do you kind of find that as like a constant, like even looking back on your whole, call it like hunting career, or even like the style of photos? And I think that's what I've always loved about even your photography and stuff too, man. It's like it tells a story, right? It's not just about like, it's not just a grip and grin of like, oh, this is the biggest freaking mule dealer I've ever seen. It's like more about like, hey, like this is like a whole story, man, of like, this is what's happening. You can see like the like on the dude's face about being like, whoa, he's like giving her right now, or like, or he's in complete enjoyment and like awe and surrealness of what just like transpired in front of him. And do you kind of feel like that in regards to both, I guess, your photography work, but then also kind of like the hunts that you're gravitated towards, where it's more about the story than it is about the actual like kill or harvest?
Yep, I think that's super fair. And for me, it's like not even the story; it's the adventure. I love
Yeah.
the adventure. And so I love to do things, I don't know, that I haven't done before. I love to go places and like, try a mode of transport that I've never done before. That to me is like what it's all about. And for sure, like hands down, it shows up in my photography. Like I'm probably a very poor product photographer. I'm definitely more like editorial style because that's just what gets me jacked up is like seeing dudes do wild things that they've never done before. And yeah, in awesome places. So
Yeah, that's nice,
yeah,
man.
hands down for me. I think like, I'd say it's probably half the reason I do what I do is just for the adventure and the stories. Yeah.
It's awesome.
And I think the cool thing is too, like just even hearing about like obviously your experimentation and stuff, even with like cooking and stuff too, right? Like that story doesn't end in the field either. Like it's like, hey, like obviously, yeah, you have like these spots where you're making incredible meals out in the backcountry, but I feel like too, like obviously with your whole background as a chef, like dude, like you got to continue to do that in your home, right? So that's freaking
Totally.
awesome.
That's like one of the saving graces about leaving the test kitchen space. I mean, it's unbelievable uh, sandbox to play in, but at the same time, cooking something that I can do, you know, 3 times a day, every single day of the week. And so I can still kind of like scratch that itch. I can still like, pursue that passion just in, maybe more in line with what I want, which is like, eating something that I harvested or cooking in the field and that kind of stuff. So yeah, for sure. I think, man, it's like, it's blended together so well. I feel really lucky about like the path that I've gotten to go on the last like 6, 7 years here.
That's
So
awesome,
sick.
man.
Yeah.
To continue on that cooking kind of like thought too, I feel like game meat, especially for people that aren't used to it on a daily, is kind of like this, like, yeah, like it's a question mark of like, how do I cook it? Do I overcook it? Like, I'm scared of all this different stuff. Like, oh, I can't cook game meat good. It sucks. Like, you just hear all these different things. How do you kind of view game meat in regards to the kitchen? And are there any like tips that you kind of have for people that are just starting out, maybe don't have like a culinary background, but are just like, hey, like I want to like, I shot my first deer or something. How do I cook it?
I think the first one that I would like share with people is it'll pay off if you can learn a basic understanding of like what cuts are intended for what, or sorry, what cuts will benefit from what types of cooking, what cooking methods. So yeah, and then treat the meat accordingly. So for example, you know, it's a good example. Heart meat. So heart meat's like one of my favorite things. Like top three cuts that I pull off an animal, one of them's going to be a heart for sure.
Sweet.
And I like to cook the heart. I'll keep it rare, medium rare, something like that. Like I definitely don't want to overcook that meat. I just think the texture and the grain and cardiovascular muscle is so good, and the flavor is incredible. So I never want to overcook it. And so as a result, because I'm going to be eating this thing medium rare or rare, I want to make sure that it is as clean as possible. So I see a lot of people, and it's quite common. And there's no like not throwing shade at people that do that, but when you are pulling out a heart of an animal and you're just kind of doing the cross cuts and you're frying it up, you're getting lots of like little connective tissue, all these little bits and that are on the outside. And I think that's just going to impact your experience when you're actually eating it, or especially, sorry, I should say when you're eating it medium rare or rare.
Mhm.
And so for me, like that's one where I know I'm going to cook it like a steak, and so I'm just going to break it open into the two or three lobes that I can find in there. I'm going
Yeah.
to clean it up. There's not going to be a single thing on that heart meat that is not the actual like heart muscle.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that is pretty critical. And the same goes for like hind legs. You know, maybe I go overboard, but like if I'm cleaning up any sort of hind leg muscle and I want to use it for cutlets, I want to use it for a roast or anything like that, I'm cleaning off every single bit of connective tissue,
Hmm.
sinew, all that stuff off of there, because I know that how I'm going to eat it, I just want that experience of eating pure muscle. So I think that would be like my first thing. And then, man, don't be afraid to like expand and try different cuts. One of the other things that I would say was like in the top three for sure is neck meat. I really, really like neck meat. It's got some great connective tissue that'll break down in there. And it's also
Okay.
got little pockets of fat in there. And I just really like the texture of the grain. And so that one, I'm always either leaving it whole and then I'll braise it whole.
Yeah.
But it needs some sort of wet cooking method, ideally. So
Hmm.
stuff like that. Just understanding like what the cut is, how it's best prepared, or what kind of ways are going to help it shine. And like, what you're looking to get out of it in the end would be like my biggest lesson.
Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
huge, man.
You
Those
guys
are
got
huge.
favorites, favorite cuts, favorite dishes?
Not so much, maybe, I mean, not so much favorites and stuff. Like, I think like some of the things I really do enjoy kind of surprising people a little bit. Like, cause if you're killing, if like tendies, back straps, you're like, yeah, like sounds good. Round roast, sirloin, you're like, yep, should also be all good. But yeah, I think along the lines, like, not to steal your example, but I think neck meat's always the one. Like I'll do almost like a porchetta style neck meat wrapped around a bunch of stuff and then braise that, and it's super awesome. Or you put it in the sous vide for, like 36 hours and then sear it all off on all sides, and you're like, man, this thing is like dynamite. People are like, this is neck meat. I think like the surprise of that, or doing like a shank, doing like a braised shank in some sort of red sauce, and then pull that whole thing apart. The other thing I think when people ask me about anything cooking related, like people are scared to lose any of their kill. So
Hmm.
they're just trying to like just slide like just a little bit, you're like, you're not cutting a big chunk of meat off, but like
Yeah.
if you watch like guys like whatever, even in like who's super popular on YouTube, one of those guys, the bearded butchers, right? Like they're super popular, Instagram, whatever. They're showing it, dude. They're one. I mean, don't worry about the speed at which they work; it's their job. But like they're cutting, they're like, yeah, this whole thing sliced, gone into the into the scrap pile. This whole thing, and you end up with something that started big and then ends up being quite a bit
Hmm.
smaller. And I think some people are like, oh man, but I just like lost all that. I'm like, you don't want to eat that shit. Like that's all garbage. Like it's like maybe you're gonna turn it into sausage and ground, but like for the most part, you don't want any of that silver skin. Like I think that's probably a big one. But I think the thing I enjoy the most is cuts that people often overlook, and then just with some. It's not like I'm good at it. It's just like a basic way to cook. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yourself,
Nolan?
Nolan?
What was that? Yeah, I feel like it's honestly, man, when I look at game meat in regards to the kitchen, like I really just try to view it like as if we were cooking anything else, right? So like for us, it's a lot. Like we end up using a lot of our meat in regards to, hey, like we love like homemade pasta, all this different stuff. So lots of like different sauces and just trying to use, hey, everything from our big goal is to like use things around us. So that's like tomatoes out of the garden, using obviously putting in whatever we have, elk, moose, all that different stuff, kind of getting into those different things. One of my buddy's favorite dishes that we like to use a lot is like a bear bourguignon, like a lot of different things like that too. So I think I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite. It's kind of like, what am I feeling in that day, and just trying to utilize game meat and have kind of that mindset to be like, what do we want to, what would we normally cook? You know, like what are we feeling around the kitchen table tonight, and how can we now just include game meat into that, as opposed to like viewing it as like this like big thing about being like, oh, game meat's on the kitchen table tonight. Like it's like, oh, I got to do it separately. And it's kind of like, okay, no, how can I just incorporate it into like kind of our everyday meals, you know? And sometimes those are as simple as, we don't have a lot of time to cook dinner. So we're like chucking like an arugula salad in, and like chucking like some like steaks out or something like that. To obviously now you have a little bit more time on the weekend, you're chucking something in the smoker, or doing something along those lines too, right? So like I said, I don't know if I necessarily have like a favorite, or one thing that kind of goes. Right now it's the winter, we're eating a lot of like, doing a lot of like shepherd's pies and pastas and all of this different stuff, and lasagnas, like all of that kind of stuff is like really kind of like where we're kicking in right now. But I wouldn't say if there's anything like, there's one thing that stands out kind of like over everything else, you know? So
Yeah. I just got a bunch of meat from a buddy, so I'm gonna be cooking a bunch of lasagnas here next week, and I'm pretty jacked about it.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
I
moose
freaking
lasagna.
love,
Nice.
dude, Miss Lasagna is the go-to, man. It's the
Yeah.
go-to.
You know what I did have this year? I did a moose hunt up on the Yukon,
Yeah.
up in Iron North there with Wardo, and we weren't together, but yeah, we were sent some caribou steaks, and
Hmm.
seasoned caribou steaks. I know everybody talks about kind of like in the rut, they're inedible, all this kind of stuff. I've eaten a
Hmm.
couple in the rut, and I don't mind a strong meat, and I found them okay. I
Hmm.
really didn't mind them at all, as long as I like, had some big strong flavors. But holy shit, early season caribou meat was that's some of the best game meat I've ever had. That was
Really?
yeah, it was better
Really?
than beef. We had
Yeah.
Dall sheep as well in camp, and
Yeah.
dude, that was phenomenal. So good. The tenderness, and then just how mild it was like eating a beefsteak almost, or like a little beef cutlet, but it was so tender, you could cut it with a fork.
Yeah.
Oh, frick.
Yeah, I don't think
I mean,
Ben always thinks I'm full of shit and I'm crazy because he thinks Doll sheep is like just Doll or Stone or whatever. That Doll usually for him, just where he guys mostly is
mhm.
the best. But like, I don't think anything holds a flame next to like that that mid September and before caribou.
Hmm.
Like you can get as old as you can find, and it's still like the one I killed in the NWT, older than dirt, like teeth falling
Hmm.
out, antlers all regressed, super wide, all jacked up.
Yeah.
Like you cooking like, and some of the not so great parts. Lauren and I always joke like every now and then I'll cut a calf up instead of like a tendy, and call it the I'll call it like the backstory, or like the tendy of the lower leg or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can literally like cook that like raw on the stick on the fire, and it's still, you're like, this is
Oh,
unbelievable. Versus I
yeah.
feel like sometimes you like, like maybe a mule deer doesn't go down right away and whatever. And you're like, gosh dang,
Yeah.
it's not like the meal that I'm like hoping the first time game eater like eats. You're like, oof, this thing's got a little stank to it. That caribou, man, it's
Do
insane.
you do you find that it's so my experience is that it was, like, super tender, but you guys also have a guy, working in camp who's butchering all your meat, and I was there, what, end of September or something like that, so I would imagine that, like, that caribou could have potentially been hanging for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, do you think all the caribou that you try is tender regardless of age, or do you think maybe I got one that was, aged for 21 days or something?
No, yeah, the longest that stuff gets aged in there is just a couple days. So it's just, yeah, as soon as a crust is formed, and then it's getting turned around. So yeah,
Even more impressive.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's good. Like obviously meat care, we can go into that as long as we want, but like it's there no matter what. Like I've never had, not like I've eaten like 100 caribou, like, I should say, but like, I mean, the few that I have eaten, I mean, or the maybe like whatever, 8 of them I have eaten over a few different years now. It doesn't matter. Like it's
Yeah.
always just the most ridiculous. Like
Hmm.
client that I was with this year completed his like Super Slam 29, whatever, like, every big game North American animal, and we were eating his caribou. Dude, I had those tendies in the river, dry, but like cool in the river for 9 days. Pulled them
Yeah.
out, like perfect, no big deal. Sliced them up, cooked them over the fire. Said, this is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's a guy
I
who's been
love
hunting
that.
for 35, 40 years
Yeah.
Yeah.
and hunting everywhere. So
Yeah.
Dang.
Frick, boy, you guys are convincing me to get out on this caribou hunt here next year. I have to put the one on in the cards.
Matt, do you ever pull off skirt steaks off of any of your big animals? I mean, I'm not often on like a big game, sorry, like a moose or a caribou. I find the deer, they're like not even worth the time really at that point.
yeah,
But like, man, I pulled them off caribou before, and they were freaking good, dude.
yeah. I've never done it off. Like, I mean, the skirt steaks on the caribou that we killed this year, I guess were probably not enough to write home about.
Yeah.
So they get kind of like yanked off and that's it. But on like a couple elk and some local moose and stuff like that we've put down, then yeah, 100%. Like I feel like skirt steak gets like a maybe a bad rap, but it's like a like just like a well cooked skirt steak with a chimichurri is
Hmm.
like ridiculous. It's maybe one of the
Yeah.
best cuts.
I think people maybe get a bit freaked out for the location, or like it's sometimes hard to
Yeah.
find too.
Yeah.
But like, man, carne asada, that's what carne asada is. It's
Totally.
usually
Yeah.
skirt. So
And
if
and
you
it's
like,
and if you can, if as soon as you understand a little bit more about that stuff, you're like, well, how do they cook carne asada? Well, it's not just a quick sear.
Yeah.
It's not just your Weber, barbecue out back, and it's like dunk dunk, and you're like, that thing's chewy. You're like, oh man, this is again, like you talk about a wet cook, like
Hmm.
it's money like that.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and tenderize, or sorry, marinate and stuff like that. Let it sit for a
Yeah.
little bit. And yeah, it's good. I'm a big fan.
Speaking of like the butchering side and like skirt steak and all this different stuff, what are like some parts of the animal that you guys are maybe getting a little bit more excited about that others are potentially leaving the field, whether that be organs or different cuts of meat or all this different stuff that like I said, like Connor, obviously a big one that you talked about is obviously the heart, right? I
Mhm.
think some people or a lot of people probably leave the heart. They don't even bring it with them, right? Like, what are like some things that you're like, hey, you know what? Like, more people should be obviously, as hunters, we obviously want to use as much of the animal as possible. But sometimes that's just even down to an education thing where people aren't even educated in that on the cooking side of things to say, hey, like, we should be taking the heart out with us. Like, what are some things that you really are like, hey, like these are like number one things that like you should be taken off of every animal, obviously if it's salvageable based on shot placement and all this stuff too, right?
Yeah, I mean, heart's a no-brainer, I think, because it's also when you compare it to other offal like the liver, lungs, whatever else you want to talk about there. I think it's the most approachable to people who have not had offal before because it is still sort of similar to like an actual steak. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, like I said, cardiovascular muscle is definitely a different makeup of muscle than like all the other ones that you're going to find in that animal, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's still meat, it's still a muscle. And so yeah, I think for like approachability, that's like my number one go-to. And I like it. I think it's fantastic. I would just say like clean it up really well,
Mhm.
and yeah, try not to overcook it. I like it medium rare, sometimes
Yeah.
rare. And then I had a bad experience on my very first deer that I ever killed. I fried up the liver and just did not like it. I don't know. I don't know if it was the deer that I had. I don't know if it was the way I cooked it. This is years ago, but I just was not a fan, and so I don't really pull liver out anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What other cuts? I mean, I got a buddy that does steak and kidney pie, and so he'll pull the kidneys out of a lot of his big game animals, and he'll save that and do a steak and kidney pie. I haven't tried it, but I think it'd be pretty fun to mess around with. I pulled like caul fat out of some animals if you get a clean shot, and then salted it and then kept it and then like pulled it out, rinse it, and then use that as you would any other caul fat, like from a commercially raised pig. That was pretty good. I mean, but I think you're walking a bit of a fine line. It's a different type of fat than what you get out of pork. And I also think like, no different than like bear, like a lot of the bad flavors that an animal might have will often go into the fat and kind of in there. So I'd be hesitant to suggest that to someone unless they were like experienced with it and they wanted, and they knew what they were doing kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think one that's commonly like, that's missed, kind of like you said a couple times, like with cardiac muscle, it's different than like skeletal muscle. And in bears, people are like always a little nervous of trick and stuff like that. Even people who like have hunted forever, they're like, I don't know, bears, like, what are you going to do with them? I'm like, 1,000 things, man. And, but like bear heart's one of my most commonly cooked dishes. It's the first game dish my wife had ever eaten. She never had anything else. And I happen to be like, I love Asian flavors for game in general. I think looking up Asian flavors have a little staple of, if you have like some mirin, some fish sauce, some hoisin, soy in the cupboard. I mean, you can really like rock and roll with a lot of that stuff, plus a little ginger, some lime. You can really make like a lot of really cool dishes come to life. And then you add in a few vinegars, Chinese cooking vinegar, then some of those. You can really make some awesome dishes. So I just kind of had everything, a bunch of shit in a bag, was kind of marinating a bear heart that I'd already broken down into atrium and ventricles. And then, I was like, hey, my wife and I went on our like second date or something like that. And I was like,
like, let me pull out all the stops for you.
I was like, I'm going to cook these bear heart tacos. You interested? And she's like, sure. I'm like, all right. And so, yeah, seared it up. And I think a lot of people are like, you eat the heart of a bear? Like, and I'm like, yeah, like totally. Like, sous vide, break it down a little bit if you need to. And then if you're a bit nervous about about temperature stuff, even though there is no trick in cardiac muscle, it's one of those things that's pretty interesting. And I think that's one that gets commonly left from probably one of the most widely shot animals in British Columbia. Like a lot of guys I know kill 2 a year. So one to think about.
I didn't know that they didn't have trick in the cardiac muscle. Crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense for a long time. Yeah.
What's the liability like on the podcast here, boys?
Yeah. Well, it's if you're listening, it's you already signed the waiver. Yeah.
Use one of those allegedlys up there, and that's how you always avoid everything.
100%. Boys, this has been a lot of fun.
It's been a blast, man. This has been a blast. Connor, we got to get you on here again, man. I could just keep chatting about all this cooking here, and we like I said, we just scratched the surface on all the freaking things that you do here.
Well, yeah, we should do it after a dinner, maybe after a wild team dinner. That's what we should do.
Frick. Well, dude, we need to do that 100%. So, boys, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for the time. And hey, to everyone listening, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Fargone Podcast. We'll be back out you next week.